So welcome back to McKinley, and here we are standing in front of Sheffield. Just look at this. Tracks galore, wagons and everything. What you see here is our test version of the track work design that Malcolm did for us. And we've been running this now for the last 6 months, giving it some serious grief. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but first what I'd like to do is to ask Malcolm to explain to you how he managed to deliver on an unbelievably challenging brief that I set him for this station. Thanks.
My name's Malcolm Alberry. I've known David for maybe 25 or plus years. I've been in model railway for maybe of my 80 odd years, something in the region of 60 in model railways. So I have quite a bit of experience. I've been associated with David's railway ever since it really took off. Now David and his team have produced 20 odd videos before this one, and to bring you up to date with what has changed since that time, I think it's a good place to start. The major change is that the layout has doubled its size, and I am standing in a new room which was a bedroom, and it actually has more track in here than on the old layout in its separate room. What also has changed is in fact that David now wants to increase the emphasis of goods traffic on the whole layout, the extension that I'm standing in and the original one. This time zone change will be reflected by the change of the rolling stock modernising over a passage of time. So it will start with rolling stock running around the layout and the extension in 1956 and finish in 1975. The other thing that has changed is that we have introduced combinations of the same goods wagon into threes. And these are called triplets. And the reason for doing that was twofold. One was to enable a realistic train to be assembled quickly, because obviously if you have, say, 7 triplets, you've actually got 21 wagons, so you're moving only 3 together instead of 3 independently, which would take a longer time. Also, the shunting of wagons occurs in real time and actually takes much longer than anything else that's ever done on a layout, anybody's layout. It also enables us to identify the trains easier when they're moving. Also, what David wants is that every wagon will have its own purpose. It has a reason for moving on the layout from one location to another, carrying a specific set or sets of goods according to what is made up of the number of triplets. If you've got 7 triplets, then you've actually got 21 wagons in that train. As you will see in this picture, this is representing the shape of the layout, which shows that a main line runs all around both areas, the new extension and the old layout, and also includes Sheffield in the middle of it as the hub for freight. The difference is that the existing layout is servicing London, Birmingham, Portallington and Manchester, and spoking off Sheffield are Halifax and Wakefield. So this is just a diagrammatical representation of the scope of the new layout. Also, we've introduced a off storage area, which is enabled you to create what is known as a staging area, giving it a name according to the occasion at the time. Here we can have particular trains stored for use and running out onto the layout to given destinations. You could have a cement train, a coal train, a fish train, and many more different types according to the makeup of the triplets being stored. What we're talking about today is the marshalling yard, which was a solution for managing the hub of all the freight stock on the layout. This will enable triplets to be marshalled into an east or west yard. There are separate arrival-departure tracks where the triplets can be assembled for arrival and departure by the marshalling manager, and maybe also two operators helping him with a train in the east and the trains going to the west. So first of all, we have a diagram here of the main line, which I showed you went all the way around Sheffield, which is the name of this station here. And it starts over here and goes all the way around the back of me, all the way around the back, high up, round the back of the camera, and comes out again here. So the marshalling yard is located within the main line. Here you can see a diagram of the arrival-departure tracks and how and where they come off the main line. These three tracks here are the arrival-departure tracks, and a passing track as well. And here you will see triplets on these particular tracks ready for use. What we needed then was two separate marshalling yards for the arrival and the departure trains to be put into, sorted into the correct east and west yard. So here we have the east yard, here we have the west yard. And again, if you look at the layout of this, you'll see again the triplets all over the place waiting their allocation. The engine shed is very large and has to be accessible both from the main line and from the marshalling yard at Sheffield here. And you can see from the pictures that you are now looking at that it has a turntable, arrival departure tracks, and the appropriate locos are put on whatever tracks for that particular operation. So here you can see a composite drawing of all of the sub-elements of this marshalling yard. You can see the main line in blue, you can see the arrival departure tracks in red, you can see the east and west yards in blues, and also the loco facilities in brown. So you can see that this is a very, very densely tracked area and will require a lot of operators to work it. So as you can see by looking at this layout in its full glory, it is large. It is going to be a lot of fun to operate on an operating evening, and the major job it will be doing will be sorting trains from the arrival and departure tracks into the appropriate yards, out of the appropriate yards, back onto the departure tracks and sent out onto the main line. This is going to be a lot of fun under pressure.
So Malcolm's described his design of this. What I wanted to do was just go through the testing that we applied to the design. We built all the track work, we electrified all of the track, but we didn't put any point motors down, so everything's been switched by hand. And we put all the triplets that Malcolm's referenced already onto the layout, and then devised a scheme for testing whether this yard would work for its purpose of marshalling wagons, and also how many operators do we need to run this particular layout. This, I call them all stations, but they're not really. This one hasn't got a station, it's a yard. We have the 3 arrival departure tracks. We have one yard facing that way, and we have another yard facing this way. What we devised was a scheme where we used a method for setting out the destinations by track. This would be for London, this would be for Birmingham, this would be for Halifax, and so on and so on. And we had 4 tracks on this side and 4 tracks there. That's the total number of available sidings. We used a set of numbers on these wagons, as you can see here, to indicate which track they were going to go into. So we have a train conceptually arrive there, and we had the chaps breaking it all up, giving it between the 2 shunting teams here, and putting it at the appropriate yard for the right destination. What we started off with was putting 3 operators on shunting. One managing the shunting down here, at this head of the arrivals departure tracks, 1 shunting operator for this area here, and another shunter for this area here. So there were 3 shunting operators down this end, and there was also an engine shed shunting operator down that end, 4 people. And we still needed someone to call the shots. So that means 4.5, 5 people. Well, you can fit them in, but golly, it was chaotic. It worked really well, by the way. What we found, oddly enough, to be the best operating sequence was fewer operators. They didn't get in each other's way, and they flowed faster. And we ended up with 1 operator dealing with the head of the train at this end, and the other operator running 2 shunters simultaneously with some help from this operator here. That was 2 doing the bulk of the work at this end, and the operator at that end, who managed taking off locomotives and the guards vans and nothing more, and managed the engine shed, would also have time to fulfill the station manager role. So we're really happy that this design will work as intended. Thank you, Malcolm.